The great Peter Block says in his book Community, The Structure of Belonging, that to belong is to be related to and a part of something. We are in a community each time we find a place where we belong. With the help of the SERVE program and our leadership courses, I finally understand what Peter Block is saying and how it relates to me. I cannot determine when this understanding came to me, but I do know that I have a more mature and developed sense of my definition of belonging. Being a student within the SERVE program gave me an instant, yet superficial, sense of belonging as I came to college freshman year. I instantly had a group of friends and people I could socialize with. I was convinced that SERVE was for me. I had found a place where I belonged and where I found people with similar interests to my own. And although this is still true, I have had some experiences that have deepened my understanding of belonging. In the fall of my freshman year, on November 11th, I received a phone call I will never forget. It was a 7 a.m. call telling me that my friend Amber had passed away from cancer. I was utterly an instant mess. Trying to understand what had happened while crying my eyes out, my roommate Molly reached out to me. Even though she was asleep before that phone call, when she heard me crying, she came over to my side to comfort me. She treated me like we had known each other for years, even though we had only been at school for 3 months. When the news spread to the other SERVE students, everyone tried to comfort and console me about my loss. And despite only knowing them for a few months, everyone made me feel like I belonged. They didn't pity or overly sympathize my situation. They all just acted like they genuinely cared for me and asked how I was handling my grief. This entire process of my SERVE friends being there for me when I felt like I had no one, this created belonging for me. The good old Peter Block also says that belonging can be thought of as a longing to be, to find our deeper purpose in all that we do. It is our capacity to be present and to discover our authenticity and whole selves. And I honestly couldn't say it better myself. Belonging is a longing to be, to find a deeper purpose, to discover our authenticity. It all sounds quite ambiguous at first. But as I've realized, belonging does not just have one meaning, and it does not have a simple, easy to describe definition either. I consider belonging to be more of a life journey and process rather than a verb. Before coming to college, I typically related belonging to the groups and communities I was a part of, like a sports team or school club. But as I soon realized, to belong means so much more than a title or membership in something. It means to truly feel connected in such a way that you don't just belong, but you are that group, team, or community. My best friend defines belonging as a sense or feeling of what she calls togetherness, where people aren't just superficially together, but accept and understand each other for who they are. This acceptance, understanding, and sense of togetherness also establish our collective and individual identities. We not only belong, but we are that something, that community. Community also offers the promise of belonging. We, as a collective whole, belong to a community while belonging within our person and individual self. But I believe that before an individual can truly understand the essence of genuine community, they must first reflect upon their identity. In relation to leadership and SERVE, over the past 2 years, my views on belonging and identity have transformed. I now have a better understanding of who I am and why I do what I do. But this transformation hasn't been easy. I've had many breaking points and struggles that have forced me to reflect upon my individual identity. As many people know, I witnessed quite a bit of domestic violence and abuse during the early years of my childhood. And I held on to these years of fighting, chaos, and confusion. I used to let my past define me. I let it become my identity. I thought of myself as a confused girl from a broken home who will always be followed by her parents' mistakes. And I finally made the decision to separate myself from this mistaken and warped identity, and to find myself. Find out who I really was, not my parents. My work and involvement as a community advisor this year has helped me with this daunting task of finding myself. And every freshman student I crossed paths with this year led me to one step closer to finding the real me. It's hard to explain how or why I think this, but I honestly feel that even though I was supposed to guide and help the freshman students, they helped me. They encouraged me to think, believe, and serve differently. Moving to the principle of collective identity, as a community advisor this year, I have tried to reach out to my students in a way that makes them feel welcome, makes them feel like they belong. My family group and I called ourselves the Breakfast Club, with the intentions that we all came together from different walks of life, just like the movie. We wanted a group name that would symbolize our differences and yet embrace them in a fun manner, and we did just that. During our connection time at the beginning of every class, people within our family would usually share a personal struggle or challenge with the group, instantly creating a sincere bond between us. During family discussions or class activities, more and more details about everyone's personality, personal life, and passions began to emerge. It took time, but we tried our best to establish an environment where we all felt that we could belong to. We live in a world where the forces that seek to divide us are strong. To overcome them, we must do more than simply stand next to one another in silence. We must come together. We must connect. We must find belonging. And we must also find common ground. As I have discussed in my previous video, the concept of common ground is one that has resonated with me throughout the year. I have found common ground to be an idea that we do not take time to develop and nurture. We reach to one another, connecting wholeheartedly. A common ground can be achieved. I've learned from personal experience that in settings where common ground is established or developed, the connection between people is one of the strongest bonds I've witnessed. The negativities of indifference, prejudice, or judgment are nowhere to be found within these bonds. It is in these bonds that progress and community development, service, and outreach can be done to the utmost capacity. According to Robert Putnam in Peter Block's Community, a community's well-being simply has to do with the quality of relationships, the cohesion that exists among its citizens. This is true. If there are genuine, strong relationships between people, a great sense of belonging can be developed. I believe in the connection between strangers, where they reach out to one another. It can be such a powerful thing, and a community in action accomplishes more than any individual can, no matter how strong he or she may be. As I end this video, I would like to leave you with one last thought that has forced me to reflect about belonging and identity over and over again. It's not about the differences that divide us. It's about our judgments about each other that do. With that, I challenge the world to eliminate the divide between us and let us embrace one another in a mutual act of togetherness.